Rendering hair in video games has proven itself to be an uneasy task for video game developers, and as someone who not only loves video games but also makes their living off of my eye for hair, I've witnessed the slow but sure incline of hair rendering and physics in video games, especially in the last decade. We've overcome a lot of hurdles, made a lot of technological advancements, and I'm elated to report that most games that are released nowadays finally have good hair. I feel like this is a topic that's often overlooked, and honestly rightfully so, as there are more important things in games that could use that time and effort. But again, when hair is done right in video games, people notice, and it does make all the difference. It's important because it can really help sell a character and the action of a scene and the movement of a character as well. So it's important to me. Okay, so let's get into it. This is an arbitrary list of the best hair that I've observed in video games that fit the silk press criteria. That criteria consisting of physics, shininess, color, whether or not they are customizable, and environmental reaction such as wetness and wind and snow and other things like that. I'm going to be rating them by a range of 1 to 6 silk presses, 6 being a perfect score and being the best of the best. Alright, so this is going to be in no particular order. So we're going to start with Horizon Forbidden West. This released in 2022. I'm a big fan of Aloy's hair. I love how bouncy it is. I think that the way that it moves really helps sell the fast-paced action and the chaotic movement during the gameplay. There's always a lot going on. She's always running around, bouncing around and everything like that. So a lot of games use this like nice auburn hair color for their characters. Her hair is more of a gingery, so it's really vibrant, but I'm really fond of it. I think it looks like the old Tomb Raider games. It reacts really well to the elements like wind, rain, and underwater environments, which are really stunning in this game, like oddly stunning. But the only odd thing about her hair is that it looks kind of like dreadlocky in a way, and it's not like the traditional strand-based hair that we see like in games like in Tomb Raider, but I do think that it still gives her some character regardless, and it looks like a bunch of braids, honestly, which is kind of cool. It's different. It's definitely not stiff, so that's many points on her behalf, and yeah, I'm really happy with it. So Horizon Forbidden West, Aloy gets 1 point for wind, 1 point for shininess, 1 point for the movement and the physics, 1 point for the wetness and underwater, like floating, sensation thing going on. She is not customizable. You cannot change her hairstyle. You are stuck with this one, and the color is really beautiful. So that's 5 out of 6 silk press points. There we go. And now we are on to a game called Alice Madness Returns. This released in 2011. And yes, this is Alice in Wonderland for those who don't play video games. But to this day, she still has among the best hair in video games I've ever laid my eyes on. It's super easy on the eyes and beautiful to look at. I remember like yesterday, I waited all week to ask my dad to take me to GameStop on Saturday to buy this game for the Xbox 360. And I remember being like blown away by the fidelity and the silkiness of Alice's hair. It's not stiff anywhere. It flows beautifully in the wind. You can easily make a shampoo commercial with Alice's hair. This game came out in 2011, and it still blows me away that this technology, which hasn't really been utilized in too many other games, was used in this year. And you see every strand, which is always a welcome in my book. Alice Madness Returns get 1 point for wind, because it does blow in the wind. 1 point for shininess. It's super shiny. As you can see, it's just gorgeous to look at. 1 point for the movement and the physics of it. 1 point for the wetness / underwater category. There's this level where she's like underwater. It's really weird, but I'm showing it on the screen here. It's odd, but it definitely works, and her hair definitely has like different physics for this level, so that's pretty cool. She gets a point for styling as well, because there are 2 different styles in the game, and she gets a point for the coloring of her hair. I love the dark brown. It's really beautiful to look at. So that brings Alice Madness Returns a perfect score at 6 out of 6 silk presses. Good job. This is another newer game. This is a game called Infinity Nikki, and it released in 2024. And Infinity Nikki doesn't really have realistic hair by any means, but I added it to this list because of the amount of styles and length options that you have as the player. It also has like really beautiful movement, and it's super stylized, and it has like different textures, straight, wavy, and curly. To me, it's really satisfying to look at, and I think the physics aren't too intrusive or distracting or anything like that. I think they found a really good balance for this game, considering it's a fashion game. So yeah, I think that it totally works, and I'm happy with it. Infinity Nikki gets 1 point for the wind because it does react to the wind. I'm gonna have to deduct a point for the shininess. It's not as shiny as I like to see, at least from my standards. So I'm gonna give it a point for the movement and the physics of it. Underwater, wetness, rain, whatever, there's nothing there. You can't swim in this game, unfortunately, so that's another point deducted. But she does get a point for the styles, as I said, and the colors, because there are beautiful colors. So that puts Infinity Nikki at a total of 4 out of 6 silk presses. Moving on to Spider-Man 2. This game released in 2023, and it's a really interesting one because I'm not only taking into consideration the main character, but the side characters as well. You know, Peter has a really nice haircut, it's molded really well, and it looks soft and realistic, while Miles has this abysmal Killmonger dreads. Oh my gosh, I hate those dreadlocks in video games and any form of media. It drives me insane. I hope that we do away with it. I despise it. It doesn't even make sense for him to have dreads because of the mask, but you know, this is a video game, so whatever, not a huge deal. But I'm going to include some clips of how his hair was in his own game, which was released in, I think, 2020. He had this perfect fade haircut, and it made sense and worked for him. You know, it looks good. They even showed it off at the beginning of like the game when you first booted up the title screen. They knew what they were doing, and they did a darn good job at it. Mary Jane's hair also had an improvement from the last game. It definitely appears to be using some kind of like new technology that allows you to see individual strands, but unfortunately it is very stiff, and especially at the back, which is my worst pet peeve in video game hair. But it does look great during cutscenes. I honestly couldn't ask for more. She is a playable character, but I didn't really care to play as her, and unfortunately she was not fun to play as whatsoever. But yeah, let's go ahead and rate Spider-Man 2. So we have no reaction to the wind. I don't recall seeing any physics applied to the hair during like windy weather. There wasn't a lot of wind in the game. I don't think there's any wind in the game, actually. Correct me if I'm wrong. But they get a point for shininess. I think that the shininess is appropriate. I think it's rightfully done. The movement / the physics, I'm gonna have to deduct a point because it's not as fluid as I would like it to be. It's a little more on the stiff side, especially Mary Jane's hair. Now for the wetness / underwater, floating, rain section, it gets a point because it does look wetter in the rain. It has a shininess to it that would imply that it's wet. I like that. I'm there for that. There are different styles. You know, there's diverse characters. A lot of them have curly hair. There's fades, and you know, they did their dues with that category for sure. The colors, they get a point for that because there are a lot of different colors. So that puts Spider-Man 2 at a total of 4 out of 6 silk presses. Not the best. Now we have Tekken Tag Tournament 2, and this game came out in 2011, but I'm only going to be focusing on the Lily character. I only have experience playing as her, so I can't really speak for the other ones, but the technology is there. This is another older one, but I've always been really fascinated by Lily's hair and the way it sort of played a role in her characterization. She always did like hair flips and whips, and I just love when games acknowledge the fact that the characters have hair, and you know, the hair plays a role in like the animation of the character or whatever. And I love it even more when they show off their hair physics. There are like many iterations of Lily in the Tekken series, but I found that her hair from Tekken Tag Tournament 2 looks and behaves the best, even better than Tekken 8, where it's like super stiff and stuck to her back. I don't know, I find it very insulting that they would take a character like this and not do her hair justice. So because of that, I have not played Tekken 8, but yes, it actually made me appreciate the old Lily hair even more. Like I said earlier, I really am fond of like chaotic movement and chaotic hair physics while you're fighting, and you know, it looks and feels how hair would react in an actual fight, right? It accentuates Lily's tricks and moveset, and it's like exactly what I would expect hair to be like in a fighting game. So, you know, it helps convey whatever is going on in the scene, and I think they did a really good job with making it look silky and shiny and everything like that. So yeah, I'm really happy with it. But let's go ahead and give it a rating. It has no reaction to the wind from my experience, from my knowledge. I don't recall seeing that. I think that the shininess is appropriate. I think that they nailed it, so they get a point for that. The movement and the physics of it, as I said, definitely gets a point. The wetness underwater category, there's really no point in the game where it rains or where she's underwater or where her hair is wet. So I'm gonna have to deduct a point from that category. But style wise, there's no different styles that you can give Lily. The color, I think the color is beautiful. I think that they nailed it. It's blonde, you know, looks like the FMV videos, and I'm pleased with it, and I would recommend this one over 8 any day. So that brings Tekken Tag Tournament to at a total of 3 out of 6 silk presses. We could do better. Next is Rise of the Tomb Raider 2015. This is another stunning masterpiece of digital hair. I remember being so upset that this game was announced as an Xbox exclusive, because at the time I didn't own an Xbox, and everybody knows I'm a huge Tomb Raider fan, and it's actually my favorite franchise ever. So I was definitely devastated that I would have to wait a whole year to experience this glorious hair on Lara. I even considered buying an Xbox solely just to play this game. This hair is truly among the best, and I think some people would even argue and say that this is the best hair that we've ever seen in any game, because not only is it styled really nicely, but it also has movement everywhere and not just the ponytail, you know what I mean? A lot of times in games, when a character has like a ponytail style, the developers only animate or apply physics to the ponytail part and not the bangs or the fringe, which is understandable, but they really went the extra mile in Rise of the Tomb Raider to sell the hair and to sell everything that was going on in the scenes and the chaos and how much Lara's being tortured. You know, a game like this could really use hair like this because there's always a lot of action going on. Lara's always getting beat up, so it totally makes sense why they'd give her hair like this. You know, being a Tomb Raider fan from the beginning, I was totally elated to see that she finally got the hair that she deserved. You know, she finally got some hair that reacts to all of the elements that she's always subjecting herself to. So yeah, I'm very pleased with this hair, and I definitely would recommend people who like hair physics in games to play this game, because you're gonna get a kick out of it. Everything about it truly is glorious. And yes, so to give it a score, I would give it a point for the wind. It reacts beautifully to the wind. There's many points in the game where it's windy, so they apply perfect physics there. I think that it looks beautiful and shiny, so they get a point there. Obviously the movement and the physics get a point there. The wetness / underwater sections are definitely a highlighted point for this game for me. The hair looks more shiny when it's wet, and it's animated differently, and the physics are different when it's wet. It's so realistic. It's really nice. Now, as far as the styles go, I gave it a 0.5 because no, you can't really change the hairstyle, but there is this beanie in that game that you can wear. This is like this hat. It kind of hides the ponytail and it only shows the fringe, so it's technically a different style. So yeah, that leaves Rise of the Tomb Raider with a total of 5.5 out of 6 silk presses. Very good, very good. Next up, we have WWE 2K23. Now, this game obviously came out 2023, and I just wanted to put this in here because WWE is one of those games that I've always went to for nice hair physics. I used to play the games on the PS2, like at 7 years old, just like admiring how well the hair was done, and at the time it was really realistic. You know, I was happy with it, and I was happy that it didn't go overlooked, because when you think about it, WWE is a very performative based sport or like entertainment piece, and the sweaty hair, at least in my opinion, has always contributed to the art of wrestling. You know what I mean? It just makes it look more fun, chaotic, crazy. And while it's not perfect here, I think that it's still pretty admirable and fun to look at. Unfortunately, it still does suffer from that stuck to the back of the head syndrome, which you can easily see when the characters go upside down, which they do often. But yeah, again, WWE is one of those things that, like, if the hair physics wasn't applied, like if it was just stiff, I don't think that it would have worked, because again, when you watch the show, it's always a lot going on. The hair is always moving around. A lot of the male characters have long hair as well, and the female wrestlers always have their hairs like styled and colored and everything like that, and that reflects in the game, so I have to appreciate them for that. Let's go ahead and give it a rating. So for the wind, there's no wind in the game, so they have no points there. I think that is shiny enough. You can also customize the hair to your liking. You can change the shininess level, which is a big inspiration for this video and for this category. So they get a point there. The movement and the physics, while it is limited, I still would give it a point because it's still prevalent. Wetness / underwater is interesting because I mentioned earlier how much wet hair plays a role in WWE in my eyes, but there is really no wetness or rain in this game, so I'm gonna have to take a point away from there. Styles, you can style, customize, and color the hair, so that leaves the total for WWE 23, 4 out of 6 silk presses. The next one we have is Hogwarts Legacy. This released back in 2022? No, it came out in 2023, which is actually more recent than I thought it was. But Hogwarts Legacy is a really good example of what I was speaking about earlier, of what we kind of typically get in video games with hair. It doesn't really have too much movement, but there are many styles, and it is very stylized. There's not really much to say because a lot of my previous points about the other games don't really apply here. The main reason why this game has a place on my list is because of the multitude of different hairstyles and textures. They did the fades right, that's always a plus, and I liked how realistic the hair looked in the cutscene. I mean, that's pretty much all I can really say about that. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish this one off. So as far as the wind, it gets no points. It doesn't react to the wind. I think that it is shiny enough, so it's definitely getting a point there. The movement and the physics of it, not quite there. It's very stiff. Even the longer hairstyles, I tried them out, not for me. Wetness underwater, yes, you can swim in this game, but the hair does not change color. It doesn't change, it doesn't look any more wet or any different from when it's dry and when you're out of the water, so they don't have any points there. You can style the hair, and I like the hair colors, so yes, there's that. That leaves Hogwarts Legacy at a total of 3 out of 6 silk presses. Now we have a game called Jedi Fallen Order, and it released back in 2019. That's an interesting year. But this is another interesting case because the hair physics in the first Jedi game was in fact better than the hair physics in the second game. But you can change styles in the second one, so I'll just merge them together. You don't often see much effort put into male characters' hair in video games, so I love how it wasn't overlooked in these two ones. Even more than that, I love the fact that he actually runs his hands through his hair, like Lara in Tomb Raider and Ellie in The Last of Us. Yeah, again, I'm very fond of when games acknowledge the character's hair because that's just one more way of introducing realism into the game, There's honestly not much to say about Jedi Fallen Order hair. It's nice to look at. It's pretty, but other than that, it's pretty basic technology nonetheless. So Jedi Fallen Order is going to get 1 point for the wind. Yes, it does react beautifully to the wind, as you saw, and I think it's nicely animated. The shininess gets a point because I think that it's shiny enough. As far as the actual movement and physics of the hair, this is going to be interesting because it's not quite, I hate to keep using the same words over and over again, but it's definitely not as fluid as a lot of other games. It's more on the stiff side, but it does have enough movement for for it to convey what the character is doing and what's going on in the scene. So I would give the movement / physics a 0.5 points. It's not where I want it to be, but they did incorporate it in the game. As far as the wetness, underwater, floating category, yes, it does have wet hair. The hair does get wet when you go underwater. It does get wet when it rains. As far as the styles, you don't get a selection of different hairstyles for Cal in the first one, but in the second one, you can choose which hairstyle you would like to give them. There are options for long hair, buzz cut, and you can also change the beard. So again, I'm very appreciative that didn't go overlooked. Now, as far as the colors are beautiful. I don't think you can change the color, but the color itself, the ginger, it's like Aloy's hair. It's really nicely done and it looks beautiful in cutscenes. I'm a big fan of it. So overall, that leaves Jedi Survivor and Jedi Fallen Order at a total of 4.5 silk presses out of 6. Now we have an absolute banger, one of my favorites ever, and that is Stellar Blade. This released last year, 2024. Just incredibly stunning and revolutionary hair rendering and physics, in my opinion. It's actually said that the game was delayed a year because of the fact that the developers spent that year perfecting Eve's hair, and I personally think that it shows. They could have easily left it alone and just have it be mediocre like most games, but they had had a vision for her hair, and they did more than accomplish that, because there are other styles and colors you can choose from. I think on paper, long hair like this in a video game might sound like out of sorts and out of place or near impossible. And I have to admit that her hair is a little odd to look at initially, but at least for me, the more you look at it and the more you play the game, the better it looks. And it looks stunning in cutscenes, and it moves freely, so it isn't really impeded by the action of a scene or like exploration. It actually has like the opposite effect. Again, the chaotic physics of her hair allows us to feel the movement and the force of a scene, which many games, in my opinion, don't get right. I remember like first discovering this game because of a GIF that PlayStation posted on their YouTube account of the State of Play showcase. I didn't believe that it was real, but I watched the video and I was just like, my jaw was dropped, because you have to understand, like, I've always paid attention to hair in video games. And so when I saw this, it was the first time that I was like, wow, like this is what the future is going to hold for hair. I am getting everything that I desire. Like, it's perfect. I grew up playing Tomb Raider. I love the long braid and the long ponytails that she always had. And to see like a more strand-based version of that in the flesh, and the fact that the game was going to be coming out soon after I discovered it, I didn't have to wait. I was so elated and beyond thrilled to play as a character with long hair. Not to mention her outfits and the amazing like graphics and everything else that's great about the game. It's pretty much the epitome of what I was seeking at the time, you know, and it's like I got my fix. Now I'm on to something else, which is like GTA 6. I hope that they understand how much like people like me appreciate the effort that they put into Eve's hair, and I think that it's a very welcome addition to her character model for sure. So to give Stellar Blade a score, I'm going to give Stellar Blade 1 silk press for wind, 1 silk press for shininess, 1 silk press for the movement and physics, 1 silk press for the wetness and underwater floating, because she does have floating hair physics underwater. She gets another point for style because of the fact that you can change different styles in the game, and you can also change the colors. So that's going to put Stellar Blade at a total of 6 out of 6 silk presses. A perfect score for Stellar Blade. So now we have our last and final game for this list. I might do this again in the future because I feel like I'm missing a lot of other games. So now we have Dragon Age the Veilguard. I've never played any of the previous Dragon Age games, but I'm confident that they didn't have hair like this. This was the first time that I literally shed a tear looking at the hair in a video game. It's the epitome of everything I've ever wanted for hair in a game, and it was like the first time that I've ever seen CGI-esque hair like that. You know, the hair in like Disney animated films like Moana and Frozen or whatever. There's a certain look to the hair, and this game has it, but you can play it. You know, it's so crazy. When I first booted the game up, I immediately had to take it to Reddit to discuss the beauty of not only the hair physics, but the fidelity of the hair and the smorgasbord of hairstyles and hair textures. I mean, this game has the most like realistic curly hair ever seen in any video game, and the styles are actually cute and not just like lazily done. You know, they put some serious time, thought, and effort into the hairstyles, and good thing they did, because this is another one of those games that is heavy on action and a lot of character movement. You know, there's a lot of traversal. Just like in Alice Madness Returns, there are multiple hairstyles in the game that are like down and not conformed by any like ponytails or anything like that. It's just like freely down and it just flows. It's crazy to see. I mean, even still to this day, I'm blown away. And I don't know how they did it, because there's no performance hits on the PlayStation or on the consoles, not that I know of. You know, it runs really well. So I don't know what code they cracked, but they done cracked it, and I hope that other developers utilize the same technology in the future. The hair moves and shakes accordingly. There's actually like a level of satisfaction just like watching my character run around or like walk around the castle, and it's just really lovely to look at. I've spent like hundreds of hours admiring the hair in the game, and just like I said, wandering around just looking at how it reacts to the world and the different lighting situations. I've like countless videos stored on my PlayStation from moments that highlight the amazing hair physics. Funny enough, I actually played a role in why the hair is as great as it is now, at least for this specific style that I'm showing, because I made a post on Reddit about a bug that was happening, and within a week they fixed it, and now the hairstyle is perfect and it moves freely the way the hair should. And I feel like I helped make it as good as it is. So I feel cool to be a part of something great like that. Not saying every game needs to have hair like this, but man, it is truly appreciated when they do so. So I honestly don't think that any other game will ever top Dragon Age the Veilguard hair. I really don't, because not only is the style very lovely, the style that I use great, but the other styles and the fact that it has so many other styles, no other game is going to ever compete with that. So I got my fix. I just hope that other games, like I said, incorporate the same technology in the future. So yes, that was a mouthful. However, Dragon Age the Veilguard did not get a perfect score for the hair, and let's get into that. So wind, there is no wind in Dragon Age the Veilguard, and it doesn't react to any weather elements, unfortunately. Shininess, that's a point, obviously. It looks realistic, it's shiny enough, it's lovely, especially in different lighting situations. I love it. Movement and the physics, I'm actually going to give the physics 2 silk presses, because I've just never seen such realistic and beautiful hair physics in any game, and this takes the cake for the best hair ever, so I have to give them 2 points. Now, wetness and underwater, nothing there. This hair does not get wet, and you do not swim in this game. That's very unfortunate. Can you imagine this hair underwater? Oh my goodness. But yes, no points there, but they get a point for styles, and they get another point for the colors, because the colors are really pretty. Unfortunately, like I said, Dragon Age the Veilguard does not have a perfect score, but I decided to give it a 5 out of 6 silk presses. Splendid job to all of you. Alrighty, so that's going to be it for this list. I probably missed tons of other games, but there are so many out there, so let me know if you have any other titles that I could possibly include, and I might make a part 2 if you enjoyed this. Leave one of these emojis in the comments if you made it to this point, and definitely expect to see more gaming content from me as we near the release of GTA 6, my most anticipated game ever. I'm really scared, but I think we're going to be getting a trailer too pretty soon, so I might react to that. I don't know, we'll see. But yes, I love video games, and I love hair in video games, and I hope that they get that right, and I hope that you guys love it just as much as I do, and I hope that this video is fun and satisfying to watch. But yeah, that'll be it for this. Thank you guys so much. I love you, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.